Hey, you know, millions of people use Botox to maybe freshen up their look. I know I'm no stranger to it. I've even had it done on the show before. Well, I was super excited about this new local study out of OHSU. It suggests that Botox users may be able to get fewer injections and still get those great results if you do it for a certain period of time. So joining us right now, Dr. Rogery Dailey, the head of OHSU's Casey Aesthetic Facial Surgery Center, and you were very involved in this study. Tell us about, so how long will I need to get Botox before I can get, you know, go fewer times and save some money?
Well, what we did was we took 50 women and we made sure they were Botox responders, which most, I'd say 96 to 98% of subjects are. And then we injected them every 4 months for a period of time, stopped for a while, still measured what we called their facial wrinkle scale. You have to have some way to measure the results. And I can share those results with you if you'd like. I've got a graphic here. So if you look up here on this, on the left side, it's the facial wrinkle scale. And if you start here and have Botox, within a month, your facial wrinkle scale drops about 50%. And then as time goes by, your facial wrinkle scale comes back up here to, say, 4 months. And then if you go every 4 months, it just gets better and better and better pretty steadily. Now, if you happen to stop, say, after a couple years, that facial wrinkle scale will stay the same for about 6 months, and then you need to have it again. So some patients would come in and say, geez, I don't want to get involved in something that I have to do every 3 months. Right. Well, if you do it every 3 months, your facial wrinkle score just goes to 0 quicker. But if you're not in a big hurry, you can do it every 4 months, and of course, financially, that's a little bit better. And if you get down to a facial wrinkle scale, say of 1.5 that you're happy with, then maybe just do it every 6 months.
So there's a certain number you can maintain at.
Right, exactly right. And if you choose not to do it, you'll go back at some point in time back up to your facial wrinkle scale that you started at, and you're not committed to it if you try it anyway.
Yeah. Do you have to keep going? It's once you start, though, it's an ongoing process.
If you want to get better and better and better, yes. If you get to some point where you're pretty happy, then it's maybe a couple times a year.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think, you know, are still freaked out about Botox. Like I said, I'm not. But is it safer than when it first came out? Or I guess what are the thoughts on that? Because some people do worry about, you know, that it can cause some weird facial things.
Sure. So Botox came out, this initial studies were done in the mid-70s. I started using Botox on patients in the early 80s, and so it's been around for a long time. Allergan, which is the company that makes Botox, and there are other neuromodulators like Dysport was mentioned earlier, they got FDA approval so that they could market it in April of 2002. So most people have been aware of it the last 9 years. Prior to that, it was around. It's just that it, you know, wasn't as known.
So it's safe. I mean, as far as you're concerned, no.
Well, I think, you know, if we've been doing trials for almost 40 years, that would suggest it's safe. Obviously, it matters, you know, who's putting it in, and that it's the correct amount, and it's from an FDA-approved source, such as Allergan. There's holograms on the bottles that you can make sure that it's the correct source. And that's why we developed this Physicians Injectable Coalition, to make sure that people were aware of, you know, who's putting it in, the doctor, what the product is, the brand, and what's involved in the safety. And you can go to that site, the public can go to that site at www.injectablesafety.org and find out all the approved injectables, not only Botox, but fillers as well.
It's good to know that. I have to admit, last year I saw my first little frowns right there, and I bought something you might have heard of before called Frownies. I'm sure you have. Been around forever. So yes, it's another muscle training mechanism. So my husband was so patient, but laughing at me every night with my pajamas on. I put these little patches. I'd have to pull my, you know, my skin apart. The morning, took forever to get these sticky things off. I did it for 6 months and nothing changed. So I was very interested to hear your study today, because it might be the next step for me too.
Yeah, and like she was just saying, I mean, it really, Botox, it is training your muscles. Is that how it's working to decrease those wrinkles?
Right, so the wrinkles that we're talking about taking care of are the dynamic wrinkles, and they come from the action of the muscle. When the muscle contracts, as you can see in the graphic on the screen right now, beforehand, you can really create that that frown, but if you relax those muscles, then the frown can occur. And the study also suggested that there was a preventative mechanism here too. In other words, if you start using Botox early on, before you get those dynamic wrinkles, you won't get those dynamic wrinkles. So.
Yeah.
That's key, early on.
What's like a perfect age? Because, you know, I spend a lot of time in the sun. I'm 35 now, but it seems like this is a good age to get them before they get really bad.
Right. So patients who come in that are, say, 65 or 70 and they have atrophic changes in the skin, where you're not going to be able to get rid of that with just Botox. You can make the crinkling better, but then there's other things like surgery and laser. But if you get started, for example, when you're just starting to see the lines stay all the time, you know, it's fine to get lines, you know, when you smile and stuff, people like that. But when they're staying all the time, you might not like it, and then if you start using the Botox, you can keep those from getting deeper and long-lasting.
All right, Dr. Roger Dailey, thanks so much for this
Thank
information.
you.
I know I'm very excited to hear it. So
Well, stop frowning so much, Jenny. You know,
I can't frown. Oh, and once again, the website you mentioned that we have on the screen, injectablesafety.org. Thanks again.
Exactly right. Thank you.